It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
You know, I got invited to the Met game today. And I didn't go because I had a lot of paperwork to do. My wife was going out with her family, decided to take advantage, do a little cleaning. And I found out that I missed this today. If I would have went to the Met game, I was invited by an insurance representative. I would have gotten to see the future diabetic himself, the Rizzler, throw out the first pitch. Tell me that motherfucker doesn't look like a Cabbage Patch Kid. I mean, I know it's wrong to say that. You're telling me that we were way off when I said that guy looks like they should have came out with the diabetic version of the Cabbage Patch Kids. I don't understand how any family, you know what's sad about that? And listen, I have nothing personal against the kid, but in about 3 years, the hormones start kicking in. Puberty starts kicking in. Once he is no longer a fat little chubby Cabbage Patch Kid, that's it. It's over. It's over. What's his career going to be? I mean, seriously, I just, listen, me, I should talk, right? I'm heavy, no question. But that is just looks unhealthy. This is not a case where he's got some rare disease that makes his face look like a Cabbage Patch Kid. This is someone who is being fed junk and making money off of it. And I'm happy that the kid is having fun. I don't besmirch that. But just wait 5 years from now. Wait until DTKC Show in the year 2030 covers the whereabouts of the Rizzler. It's going to be interesting. He doesn't have a medical condition. If he had a medical condition, they wouldn't be fucking feeding him the way they're feeding him. So, yeah, he does have a medical condition. It's called, what can we call it? We could call it insulin resistance. Okay, we'll call it insulin resistance. You don't know what that is? Look it up. What's up, everybody? It is Sunday night, April 6th, 2025. Welcome to the Sit Down. For any of you out there that do not subscribe to our social media platforms, then you probably weren't notified. Do I have the thumbnail here? I think I do have the thumbnail here. Yes, I do have the thumbnail here. Kevin and I are doing WrestleMania 41 preview and predictions 1 week from tonight, right here on YouTube. 8:30 p.m. is the start. So bookmark it, save the date, save the time. Next week, 8:30 p.m., Kevin and I will be here doing a full-blown WrestleMania 41 preview, predictions, and beyond. We'll also get into everybody's live comments, questions, but we're going to focus the beginning of the show on WrestleMania 41. That's 1 week before 41 goes, and all right. One fall, I'd be very careful, throwing claims like that out there. So he's my friend. I'm not going to sit here and allow it. I know you're just joking sometimes, but some people, it's like alcoholics. Some people just don't know when to say when. So I'd lay it off on him. He's had a pretty rough week. So anyway, how's everybody doing tonight? AEW Dynasty is going on as we speak. Chat room, you are welcome to post results as we are doing this show. I'm curious to see some match outcomes. We did predictions last night on the news update. The two matches that I'm the most curious of, well, three actually. Will Toni Storm lose the championship this quickly to Megan Bayne? I think Toni Storm versus Mercedes Moné needs to be the match at All In this year. If All In is now AEW's WrestleMania every year, I would have Tony Storm and Mercedes Moné. Problem is, if Camille does return, you think Camille would probably have to go after Mercedes Moné first. So I think if Megan Bayne wins that championship tonight, it could start setting up in the near future Tony Storm and Mercedes Moné. And yes, before anybody says anything to me, I know All In is not until July, but trust me, time flies this quick. But we'll see. I think Bandito will defeat Jericho for the Ring of Honor World Championship. You know, we were bringing it up yesterday. Bandito fought Gresham in 2022 to determine who is the Ring of Honor World Champion. This is when Tony Khan first bought ROH. And Bandito lost back then. I can't see Bandito losing the mask. You take that mask off, and I'm not trying to sound like an asshole, but he looks like any, typical Spanish guy, Mexican guy, Latino guy, whatever word you want to use. Like, the physical attributes of him. You see like Rey Mysterio. When Rey Mysterio unmasked, he was young enough that he was a heartthrob to a lot of girls. I remember when Rey unmasked in WCW, I remember female friends of mine like, holy shit, he's hot. When Psychosis dropped the mask, it was a little bit different because people would be like, Psychosis looks scary. And I say that with love because I got to meet him several times in XPW. Nice guy. I can't say anything bad about him. Hoovy. My God, Hoovy, great looking guy. And, I'm just telling it like it is. Bandito doesn't give that same aura. Let's just say it like that. And I think Bandito winning the ROH championship is a really good moment for our true ROH fans. I just don't know, what the end game is with ROH right now. Remember, a lot of people seem to forget this. Jericho won the ROH championship a couple of years ago when they were trying to get the TV deal. And the day after we found out that there was going to be no TV deal for ROH programming, Jericho lost the title. Then Jericho got it back last year. And what was happening? Oh, look, negotiations for a new TV deal. And the TV deal comes and no ROH deal again. And then we're thinking streaming media, maybe Max, maybe something like that. And still nothing. So you got to ask yourself, what is so bad about ROH that Warner Brothers Discovery and Max don't want to give them a show? What is so bad about ROH? You would think the library, you would think the library would be an easy way to get old school fans to tune in. I don't know what it is. There's a lot of people obviously that are now in the WWE, but man, Max could make some serious bucko for that. And they don't pull the trigger. I don't know why. And I can't believe that Tony Khan would be really greedy as far as what his demands are for a TV deal. I think if Warner Brothers Discovery said, all right, Tony, how's about, we'll put Ring of Honor on Max, but I'll take it. I just can't see Tony Khan being that greedy. And by the way, I saw a super chat come in a few minutes ago about the AEW Max bullshit that has been floating around the last week. And I'm going to reveal something here. Is Nielsen lying? Now, listen, this is not clickbait. I'll throw it out there right now. I don't want anybody to think like, oh my God, what is he going to reveal? It's not what you think, but let me just throw this shit out of the way right now. And by the way, I want to thank everybody who is here live. We'll do a little roll call in a moment. I know we used to do that, and I've kind of like slided away from it because we go right into topics. But who sent this earlier? Chainsaw Charlie. Chainsaw Charlie, welcome, my friend. Love Terry Funk. Do you believe AEW Dynamite is getting 500,000 viewers on Max? All right. I have covered ratings for almost 30 years. I used to have access to the Nielsen numbers when we used to do the news on wrestling-news.com, and we stopped doing news for the most part about 20 years ago. I kind of regret losing some of my sources over the years. But take note, and this is not throwing shade, not tonight. This is not throwing shade on WrestleNomics. But we were the ones that exposed about 4 or 5 months ago. Every time WrestleNomics would post the ratings or the quarter-hour breakdowns, if you repeated it, they would say, please don't post our quarter hours, and you must give WrestleNomics credit for that. But I noticed something really fascinating. WrestleNomics never gave credit to who they got it from. And you start doing a little bit of digging, you start doing a little bit of investigating, like, oh, okay, something doesn't add up here. And I used to be part of their Patreon. I unsubscribed because some of the quarter hour stuff, didn't seem to match up. And then all of a sudden, after 2 years, 3 years of them giving quarter hours, suddenly what popped up? This is credited a Nielsen source. Hey, it's better than nothing, right? Well, what if I told you right now that Nielsen does get the streaming numbers for Max? Will you look at that? For the first time in a long time, about 2 weeks ago, the White Lotus that streams on Max's streaming app is in the top 10 of the most watched shows on streaming media. And they have Netflix, they have Prime Video, Hulu. This is not cable television, this is streaming media. Nielsen gets Max's numbers. Is Nielsen just making that up? So, why did I bring up WrestleNomics? WrestleNomics doesn't just get the top 10. WrestleNomics doesn't just get the top 50. They don't even get the top 100. Their Nielsen source could go into Nielsen's reports and say, could you tell me the streaming numbers for AEW Dynamite? Oh, no. We'll show the White Lotus, but no wrestling. No. We could show hockey. No wrestling. Nielsen gets numbers from Max. I'm sure if it's a must, we would get those numbers. I'll say this. You know why I don't believe that number? Because Max does not put that number out. If Mr. Bethel, who originally broke that story, said that he got it from a Nielsen source, then I would have said, okay, that could actually be true. But take note, they never mentioned where the source came from. Did it come from Max? Did it come from AEW? Did it come from Nielsen? Just a source. Max, and listen, we talked about this a week ago, but I haven't done the sit down in a week. Warner Brothers Discovery, Max, all that shit is a publicly traded company. And trust me, Max, Warner Brothers Discovery has been getting their ass kicked with financials, losing the NBA, losing other things. They've been getting their ass kicked. Positive news is a must. Plus, here's something else. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I believe Max has 115 million subscribers. 115 million subscribers. They ain't a small network. They are in the top 5 of the most streamed platforms. If AEW Dynamite was getting same numbers that they were getting on TBS, that would be in a fucking press release to their supporters, to their investors, to the world that Dynamite is getting phenomenal numbers. You would think that that would be made public to try to get more people to sign up for Max. Why would this be hidden like sacrilegious if it was such great numbers? And let me tell you something, Tony Khan, I try to be very, very nice, but, I'm sorry if this upsets people, but I truthfully believe Tony Khan has something legitimately wrong with him, and it's called immaturity. All right. I think Tony Khan has been treated like a child by his mother and father his whole life. And when he says, well, and he's asked about these numbers, instead of saying, well, no one, not even us, we have access to those numbers. So I don't know where those numbers came from. And, you would have to ask Max if that was actually the case. But no, he's like, no, I'm very excited because that's a similar number than, what I've heard. From who? Dave Meltzer and AEW whack jobs that want you to think, and the only reason why this is happening is something that we predicted back in January. When we predicted back in January about Netflix's numbers, remember what we said? AEW Max should never make public AEW Dynamite's numbers unless they are excellent. Because if they are not good, every week people will rub it in AEW's face that Raw on Netflix gets all this crazy viewership and Dynamite gets a teeny, weeny on Max. So unless the numbers are great, you do not report them. And why are people doing this now? Because they want you to think that AEW really is doing over 1 million. And here's the best part of it all. And if I didn't convince you yet why I don't believe for 1 second this number is true, here's I'll give you 2 reasons. BJ Bethel, trying to stroke that gets some AEW loving. I'll explain 2 reasons why that's nonsense. Number 1, people may remember a couple of years ago, might even been a year or 2 ago, one of the executives in Warner Brothers Discovery touted that AEW gets 5 million viewers a week on TBS and TNT. 5 million viewers, AEW. Remember that? People seem to forget about that story. When that guy was pushed, and I think it was in a conference call with investors, you know what the executive said? Oh, no. We were talking about the 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. block. And anybody that watched TBS for at least a minute was counted. So AEW Dynamite was part of the night, but they were talking 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. was what? Big Bang Theory? 10 to 11, I don't know what it's on. So when you actually, anybody that watched for a minute, anybody watch for a fucking minute, and you know why you cannot compare Max's streaming numbers to Netflix? Because remember Netflix's formula. If I only watched Raw for 30 minutes, I'm not counted as a viewer. My 30 minutes would be added to your 30 minutes, and then it would be added to someone else who watched for an hour, and then that would be considered one viewer. Because however the length of Raw is, they divide that into the total number of hours, and they say, okay, 3 million viewers. In actuality, 4 to 5 million people could have tuned in, but they only watched a half an hour or watch 5 minutes. What is this garbage? And they turn it off. They're not registered as a viewer. They take the total hours. That's why, here's a little tidbit. If any wrestling news site brings up that the total hours are down from the previous week, they are absolutely retarded, because Raw could end 15 minutes earlier compared to the week before, and no fucking shit. If 1 million people watch the show and it ends 15 minutes early, that means 15 million minutes or less than the previous week. So anybody that says, the total hours are down, just pay attention to the week before and see how long Raw is. And if the number is lower, you see how the deception is. Now, why do I think that BJ Bethel is full of it? I'll tell you why. Monday Night Raw. Monday Night Raw averaged 1.6 million viewers. Is that pretty fair? 1.6 million before it went to Netflix. Then it went to Netflix. And then they did about 3 million. Well, we really can't count the first week because that was the debut and everybody was extra excited. They've been averaging about 3.1 million globally. In the United States, they're averaging 1.6 million, 1.5, 1.7, depending on the week. Isn't that fascinating? That Netflix in the United States is averaging the same number of viewers compared to USA Network, or even a little bit less. And yeah, you could say, well, because they're including the total hours, and every viewer is someone who watched the total of 2 hours and 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is. Okay, so that justifies why Netflix's numbers are slightly lower than USA Network. But let me ask you this. Once Max started airing AEW programming, did the ratings go down on TBS? No, they didn't. If you would have saw 100,000, 200,000 viewers less on TBS, then you could make the argument, well, that's because they're now watching through Max. And don't you think Max, to appease investors, oh my God, AEW, look at all the viewers they lost. Wouldn't they tell them? Yeah, but they're watching through the Max app now. So combined, the viewership is still there. AEW Dynamite, their ratings never went down on TBS once Max started covering it. So you're telling me that 500,000 wrestling fans or 500,000 people that did not watch before are now watching because it's on Max? Or better yet, you're telling me that so many people are just loving Dynamite that much that they're watching it on regular television, cable. Oh, let me watch the replay on Max. So I'm watching it twice. Doesn't make sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. But as I said before, Nielsen does get Max numbers. All right. And if it was that good, Max would make it public. Understand this. Wrestling is this for the Warner Brothers Discovery portfolio. Look at how much they were trying to get for the NBA. Look how much they were trying to get for UFC. Look how much they were trying to get for other sports entities out there. And then you look at wrestling, and wrestling is a drop in the bucket. If you look at press releases, if you look at the entertainment outlet out there, you will see that AEW is mentioned in one fucking sentence in a 5-paragraph article. So this mindset that AEW is a real big part of the Max platform is insanity. It's not that it's a criticism on AEW. That is just a fact of life. And if Max is going to tout the White Lotus, if Max is going to tout special events, if they're going to tout sports events, and it gets really high streaming numbers, why would they refuse to bring up Max's numbers if it's that freaking good? You know, Max and TBS are all part of the same family. Don't you want to tell your investors and the world that AEW has doubled their viewership now under the Max platform? Don't believe it. Just use common sense. And remember, this is a publicly traded company. Tony Khan is not a publicly traded company. Tony Khan is a public buffoon. So he could say, oh yeah, I heard hits, I heard that, I heard this. No executive in Max would say something like that because a publicly traded company could influence the stock market. Tony Khan could say, Santa Claus told me that I'm getting 3 million viewers. Wait, by the way, how many of them are bots? All right. I spent way too much time on that stupidity. That story is just, it's one of those stories you look back on and it's, remember, this is the same schmucks that said that Tony Khan and Shad Khan were seriously considering buying WWE. Remember that. All right. How do we have any Dynasty? Okay, Ospreay won. That was one of my predictions. Ospreay did win. So now we got to see if Kyle Fletcher wins, because a Kyle Fletcher-Will Ospreay match is always a good thing for AEW fans. And having another rematch would be very interesting. All right, so right now we have Ospreay winning. Who else has won on the main card? We don't need to know pre-show matches. Anybody else? Any other matches so far? I think Moxley, the funny thing is that, Moxley is not giving the same vibes as Roman Reigns. When, Roman Reigns, it got to a point that people were getting a little bit exhausted of him holding the undisputed WWE Universal Championship, and especially when Cody lost at WrestleMania 39. we were like, holy shit, we just had this emotional roller coaster, massive ride. And now my head is spinning. And we literally had to wait a whole nother year for Cody to finish his story. Roman is tremendous. Moxley, it's just like, oh my God. You know, like every week that he's still the champion and he's doing these things with his puffy face and everything, you know, I feel like I'm getting impaled. You know, so I think title change to Swerve is good for business. But would you just do it on a Dynasty? I don't know. Anthony Bowens was a surprise opponent for Max Caster's Best Wrestler Alive challenge. Okay, that's cool. Max Caster, Anthony Bowens, that would be entertaining. All right, let's get into some more questions, shall we? Tyrese Valeriano, with all this singing going on in the WWE, could we see WWE on Broadway? No. I don't want to see a wrestling show on Broadway. I think they did an off-Broadway show about wrestling many years ago. I do not want to see wrestling performed on off-Broadway. I've been to enough off-Broadway plays in my life. I haven't been to one in many years. Shout out to Stephen DeAngelis, by the way, who very beloved guy who is great doing off-Broadway stuff. He rekindled my love for off-Broadway. But I was just too lazy to go because I had no friends that wanted to go. I kid you not. When he used to invite me as his guest to go to off-Broadway, I would tell my friends, hey, want to go to this off-Broadway play next week? It's awesome. They do like segments of all the big Broadway plays and all the secondary and tertiary actors. They get to perform in the lead. And my friends were like, no, I'm going to go to the strip bar. I want to see off-Broadway. Like I couldn't find anybody to go. So, but I don't want to see WWE on Broadway. No. It's only the second match on the night right now. The Hurt Business has got to win. And by the way, I know I'm not the person to say it, but in 2025, can we fucking stop with the, it sounds like a Dentyne commercial from back in the day. 7 out of 10 matches on Dynasty feature black people. I just stop that. I want to see people on a card because they've earned the spot. I don't care if they're black, white. I don't care if they're straight, gay. I don't care if they got 3 balls, no balls. I want to just enjoy wrestling. Why do I need to keep having color thrown in my face? That's why, and I know I mentioned it because a few people wanted me to comment on it. This whole Booker T, Swerve, DJ Vlad stuff. DeMarcus, who is one of our friends of the show, who you see on the YouTube chats all the time. He's a subscriber. He's a Patreon. He used a phrase that fits DJ Vlad perfectly. DJ Vlad is a culture vulture. All right. Now, I'm not going to get into a bio of who DJ Vlad is, but DJ Vlad, let me say it like this. The impression that I have gotten from DJ Vlad over the years, not saying that this is his sole purpose of podcasting life, but I sure feel that he really enjoys seeing black people fighting black people. Not fisticuffs and not, violence, but I'm talking about like stirring the shit up. Like, that meme of Big E grabbing the popcorn. When I saw, as much as I fucking hate Chase and Rance, and trust me, I had to use mouthwash after last night's show when I said that it looks like those charges were dropped. I literally went in the bathroom and gargled on mouthwash. I had to wash my mouth out. I don't want to wish that he got guilty of stuff, but I was like, hey, you got to report what's true. All right. As much as I don't like Chase and Rance, all right, Booker T doesn't follow the bio of Chase and Rance and probably legitimately did not know that Chase and Rance, many years ago was, guilty of sleeping with a minor and was registered as a sex offender for it. All right. I don't like Chase and Rance, but I truthfully believe that there are people in wrestling that have no idea of his past. And as Swerve and Booker T are fighting it out on social media over, the Vince McMahon segment from years ago and what Swerve said and Booker T said, here's DJ Vlad going on Twitter and posting a picture of Booker T with Chase and Rance, since Booker T was a guest seminar or whatever. And then he puts the profile of Chase and Rance being a convicted sex offender. He's like, oh, look, Booker T hanging out with a convicted sex offender. That is someone that's just stirring shit up. And, even though Booker T may have agreed to be on his show a couple of years ago, what happened a couple of years ago is not now. That's why, and I'm a Swerve fan. I absolutely love Swerve. I love Nana, with him. I have no complaints whatsoever. But every time I hear a fucking interview and Swerve talks about how they misused him in NXT and this and that, and look at what AEW did for him compared to what WWE did for him. And I'm like, you were the unknown at the time. You were an NXT fucking T. You're comparing NXT to now where you are now. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. If Swerve was on the main roster for a couple of years and just in mediocrity, and then he goes to AEW and fucking shines like he is, then I would say, yeah, WWE totally missed the boat on it. You look at Ricky Saints, and you see he goes to WWE and people are like, oh, look, AEW totally missed the boat with Ethan Page, totally missed the boat with Ricky Starks. It's a little bit different because there were too many other big names ahead of them and they had no shot. But we also need to remember, Ricky Saints and Ethan Page are still just NXT. There's no guarantee that they go to the main roster and suddenly become a megastar. We watched Keith Lee, who tore it up in NXT. In my early days on YouTube, 5 years ago, can't believe it's that long. What did I used to say? Keith Lee is my favorite wrestler in NXT. I said that consistently until he got to the main roster. Then I had to choose someone else, my favorite NXT star. He goes to the main roster, and yeah, we got the COVID era and other shit, but it's like Bearcat. And, obviously WWE didn't know what the fuck to do with him. And he shined in AEW. Now, unfortunately, because of health, he can't do it. And I feel awful for him. But I just think this guy, DJ Vlad, just like stirs the shit up. And honestly, I think Swerve should have been a little bit more careful. But then again, DJ Vlad might be Swerve's optimum host that he would like to be a part of. You know what I mean? Like he might feel, no. This guy, he goes there. So I don't know what was in Swerve's mind going on that show, but I personally think this guy, DJ Vlad, you don't give a shit about wrestling. You don't give a shit about Swerve. You don't give a shit about Booker T. And I think he just likes the infighting. And I've seen the other stories and, the hip hop world, how he's viewed. To me, he just looks like a shit stirrer. So personally, I think it was a mistake for Swerve to be on. And I kind of side with Booker T on this one. Yeah. See, you know what it is too? If DJ Vlad followed wrestling all these years and not just read some tweets and wiki pages and understood Booker T's career and some of the other things that went on, it's like what Booker T said. You think racism in wrestling just stopped in 1991? It didn't. But, they turn around and focus just on one public moment because it's viral on social media when Vince said the N-word. What about all the treatment? What about how, people were used and misused? And, I think in a lot of ways, Booker T paved the way for others. but to turn around and just find one public moment, let me see. Let me find anything racist I could find on WWE involving Booker T. And luckily, for him, he hit a home run and he found the clip with Vince saying the N-word. Oh, this is amazing. So big shit stirrer, in my honest opinion. Big shit stirrer. Jimmy Finger, what's up, Jimmy? Thank you for that. He says, DT, if the Young Bucks and Jack Perry were to come back tonight or any night, does anyone miss them? Does miss them for it to matter? He hasn't heard anyone chanting their names. Maybe TK should have sided with CM Punk. First of all, it's funny? I think this coming week's history show has to do with the creation of Collision. And if anybody goes back and researches the early news about Collision, the idea was that Punk would be on Dynamite and Collision would be a secondary show, and people that don't get along with Punk would be on the secondary show. Very quickly, it reversed itself, and they said, oh, we're going to build this show around CM Punk. The thing is this. I have never heard fans chant Jack Perry. What do you chant? What do you chant? I mean, like, look, when wrestlers come out and they chant, what is CM Punk? Let's go Cena, CM Punk. They chant Roman Reigns, OTC, OT. What did they chant for Jack Perry? Jungle Jack, Jungle Jack. Like, what did they ever chant? Jack, 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 Jack. That sounds like a house club playing house music in the 80s when everybody used to be jacking. Nobody ever chanted for Jack Perry before. And the Young Bucks, I don't even remember the Young Bucks getting chants. For AEW fans, the problem with the Young Bucks is, their character. I think, okay. This week is the anniversary also of the Young Bucks putting the Jack Perry CM Punk fight footage on Dynamite. This coming week's history show is the anniversary of that. But you look at the Young Bucks, they're all over the place. They did this whole heel thing. First, they did the corporate stuff, and they were trying to play off on real life, and that was a year too late, in my honest opinion. Then Sting was retiring, so they had to wear the white outfits, so when the blood goes on the white outfits, it looks 10 times worse than what it is. And then, they're gone again. So they come back now, and what do you do? What do you do? You bring them back as baby faces? Do you bring them back as tweeners? Do you bring them back as still corporate stooges? Whatever happened, why didn't Tony Khan ever get a receipt for the Young Bucks pile driving them in the ring when the Young Bucks would hijack the show? Tony Khan was never around. It was just, these storylines were absolutely fucking awful. But no, AEW did not make, listen, did AEW make a mistake firing CM Punk? Yeah. But at the same time, though, the climate would not have changed because all the people that matter behind the scenes, from Jericho to the Young Bucks to Brandon Cutler, you want to revisit some history. It wasn't just Ryan Nemeth that was tweeting bullshit to CM Punk. At least Ryan Nemeth had the balls to keep his tweets. Brandon Cutler said a lot of shit and he fucking deleted it really fast because he's a pussy. Nothing personal, Brandon. But there's a lot of things that a lot of people forget over the years. Too many people behind the scenes that would have always tried to sabotage CM Punk stuff. It's just, no. I'm glad that they fired him because now WWE is showing you how CM Punk should have been used. And he wouldn't have been used that way in AEW. Plus, when you look at AEW, all the major players, it's a dream match, but it's not a dream feud. If CM Punk would have remained, oh my God, he could have fought Jay White. Do I want to see a feud with those two guys? No. Oh my God, he could have had a feud with Kenny Omega. Do I want to see a feud promos back and forth every week with Kenny Omega. No wonder why Hangman Page had to go off script. Because the hatred for CM Punk through his friends and him not being able to one-up CM Punk on the mic, Hangman had to go, off base. And the difference between CM Punk and Hangman Page in the WWE is that WrestleMania is around the corner. So WWE says, look, Charlotte, Tiffany, you have any problem getting really, really dirty? Any problem really, really, taking it, low pot shots, cheap shots? LA Knight was getting cheap shots with Drew McIntyre back when they were touring Australia. People think that, Tiffany was standing up for herself and she went off guard and she rolled out of the ring to avoid future conversation. Yeah, just like Drew McIntyre stormed out of the building and waltzed off a Busted Opens podcast and, did this and did that. And LA Knight, in the Royal Rumble and he walked out. These are professionals. They are entertainers. They're trying to make WrestleMania feel as real as it gets. I think there was even an ECW. Was ECW's event as real as it gets? No, it's as good as it gets. They're trying to make this feel really personal because, here, I give you a little, I know I'm going a little off base here. Bringing back the history shows forces me to do a lot of research over the last 6 years especially. And I found a clip of CM Punk on WWE Backstage. Remember that show that was on Fox? CM Punk, WWE Backstage. That's not that long ago. Go look up his comments about Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre, who were feuding with each other at the time. You will hear nothing to insinuate that there was bad blood personally with CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, and Seth Rollins. I'm not saying that they didn't dislike each other, but you go back to WWE Backstage and you listen to CM Punk talking about Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre, you would have never even in the slightest thought that there was any personal animosity. He was given, advice and suggestions that these two guys are in a perfect position right now and they're not. You gotta hear it. It's pretty cool to look back on. I might include it on this week's history show. I'm not sure yet because it's not newsworthy, but it's still interesting. No, I mean, what ended up happening with CM Punk, it was a message. I said this a couple of years ago, and I'll say it again here. Even though I think CM Punk should not have assaulted Jack Perry or attempted to or choked him out, I think CM Punk, no matter what, should have just walked away. But I say this years ago, and I say it again now. When CM Punk was in that media scrum with Tony Khan sitting right next to him, and CM Punk is ripping the shit out of the Young Bucks, ripping the shit out of Hangman Page, ripping the shit out of, who everybody was talking about that night. You look at Tony Khan. Tony Khan looked like, I don't even feel sorry for him. He looked like the biggest pussy that, it's like a guy who's married that goes to a restaurant and a guy goes up to you and says, I'm going to sleep with your wife and you're going to sit there and you're going to watch it and you're going to enjoy it. See, he just sat there and didn't say nothing. He just sat there and didn't know what the fuck to do. He was like a deer in headlights. And then what happens? CM Punk goes to the back and they have a fight. CM Punk was truly the voice of the voiceless in AEW. For all of the other people that go through a lot of political bullshit, but they can't say a word because this is their livelihood. They ain't getting this kind of payday on the indies. They ain't fucking getting into WWE. This is their only shot to make some nice money right now. And they're forced to just shut up and take it and take it and take it and take it and take it. There were a lot of people who cheered CM Punk in that media scrum in AEW because that night he was truly the voice of all the people who were all dealing with this, with the same bullshit, but on a smaller scale and can't say anything. CM Punk is the only person that could have said something. And Tony Khan sitting there and letting him say it was the perfect example of that. So he absolutely did the right thing for other people there. And it sent a message. It sent a message, and it brought to the table the truth of what goes on behind the scenes. There's only so many NDAs you could sign. You know, I don't blame people for signing NDAs because there's a contract. You get paid money for signing an NDA. I don't feel bad for someone who, you know, signs an NDA and then, you know, is disgruntled afterwards, you know, unless they got screwed. So, yeah, I don't think that was a mistake at all. I think it benefited CM Punk. It benefited WWE. And somebody else sent something earlier about CM Punk, and this was an interesting one. Here it is. Oh, that's not it. This is it. Bob the Builder, with CM Punk main eventing WrestleMania 41 Night 1. Since I've been a longtime wrestling fan, my thoughts on CM Punk, did I ever think he would be this big? Yeah, I always thought CM Punk would main event the WrestleMania. Problem is, 11 years ago, CM Punk was still too much of an asshole. You know, obviously wrestling has changed. Wrestling has changed over the years. You know, the idea that wrestling was not going to be sports entertainment, you know, was ridiculous. And yeah, you had Vince McMahon, you had John Laurinaitis, you had more clowns behind the scenes. You know, they would go in certain directions, whether it was good for business or not. I understand why so many people were disgruntled at that time. So obviously, you know, when you enjoy working where you work, and that's a win. You know, so CM Punk's mindset about WWE is different from 10 years ago, and that has to do with ownership. But, you know, you look at wrestling 10 years ago to now, it's not that much different. Is it really? Is it that much different? I mean, we do see much more women's wrestling, which is a plus. Yeah, I always thought CM Punk should have main evented a WrestleMania. He was always top of the card, but it was his attitude and, you know, his personality at the time, you know, that, let me put it this way. When he used to do the voice of the voiceless, as far as fans go, that was not the majority of WWE fans. Those were a lot of wrestling fans that were tired of Vince McMahon. They were tired of Super Cena. They were tired of certain people getting shoved down our throat, whether we wanted to see them or not. That's who shifted towards CM Punk. CM Punk sold crazy merchandise back in the day. You go back and you see how many of those white shirts were in the crowd. You'd be like, holy shit. Had to be the number one merchandise seller at the time. So yeah, I always thought that he should be a main eventer. I think just at that time, his personality and his attitude would get in the way. All right, let's get some match updates from Dynasty. So what happened with the Hurt Business, Hurt Syndicate? They had to have won that, right? And somebody just wrote that Mercedes Moné beat Julie Hart. Yeah, that was one that we called as well. I mean, that was pretty Captain Obvious. So what do we at so far? 3 matches so far? Why is MJF not on this card? Maybe MJF faces Hangman? Could MJF be in the wild card? MJF interfered. Okay, well, I guess he's not going to be in the wild card, but all right, so Hurt Business won with assistance from MJF. So they did get MJF involved in Dynasty. So those are the only 3 matches so far on the card. So far we're 3 for 3. I thought it was a very predictable show, with the exception of Jericho Bandito and Swerve and Moxley. But I really, really think Bandito's winning that belt. So, all right. We got a Ludwig Borger question here. Tommy D, did I see Dark Side of the Ring, Ludwig Borger? If so, what did I think of it? If I didn't see it, am I going to watch it? And if not, why? No, I did not see it. No, I don't plan on seeing it. I did look at a lot of the feedback online, and I'll say it like this. I don't need Dark Side of the Ring to tell me that Ludwig Borga was a piece of shit. He had a Nazi, the SS, whatever that shit is. He had that Nazi logo tattooed on the calf of his leg in the 90s. And when he went to the UWF, he had that tattoo. When he went to Japan, he had that tattoo. When he went to the WWF, he had that tattoo. He might not have had it in UWF, which is even more disturbing because that means he had to have gotten a tattoo somewhere around the early 90s. When he showed up in the WWF and they're looking to hire him and they see the tattoo on his calf, not only did it not slight them, but they told him you got to wrap tape around it so nobody sees the tattoo, and we're going to push you against Lex Luger. They pushed him right from the beginning. So nobody was really offended about the tattoo. I don't like Ludwig Borga. Unfortunately, he did take his own life several years ago. My take on Dark Side of the Ring Ludwig Borga is this, and this is not why I'm not watching it. He was only in the WWF for 1 year. For 1 year. I don't care what he did in UWF. I don't care what he did in Japan. I know about his political stuff because Kevin and I covered it. We covered it in real time. But soon as I see on social media that Jim Cornette and others, and I tune into Jim Cornette's show every week. I'm a fan. I enjoy what him and Brian Last are doing. You know, I have definitely changed my views on them. Doesn't mean I agree with everything that they say and do. And no, I did not vote for Trump. Just a reminder. But when you take Ludwig Borga, who arguably a neo-Nazi, narcissist, and you start mentioning the president of the United States, no matter how much you feel about how much you dislike the president, but to turn around and to take that and tie it into Borga, that's it. Nope, no thank you. And it's interesting that people were more fascinated than anything that Ludwig Borga on the lower part of his back had tattooed exit only. Exit only. Oh, he hated gay people. I don't know why anybody would get exit only. Maybe because he was in prison, and maybe because people took advantage of him, and maybe he put that tattoo on there as a sign, like, don't even think about it. I don't know. I can't justify it. But all I saw that people were focused on more than anything is Captain Obvious. He's a Nazi like Trump, and he had exit only tattooed right above his ass. I don't need to see Dark Side of the Ring. No, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. Simple website hose can't be hose. Wait. Let's clarify this. Oh, no. Simple website hostings. I was like, hose. Simple website hose. Simple website hostings. Which entrance at WrestleMania 41 do I think will be the most iconic and why? I think you got to do an iconic entrance for Cena. Even though Cena hasn't changed anything about his look and his music, and many people feel it's lazy, you really kind of got to troll the fans even harder. Just try to put John Cena over like $1 trillion. Even bring up all the Make-A-Wish stuff. Bring up the Hollywood stuff. Bring up everything you possibly can about Cena that would just piss off fans even more. I think Cena, who I would love to see get a badass entrance, and I use the badass term intentionally, I would love to see Braun Breaker get a kick-ass entrance. I want to see Braun Breaker get a kick-ass entrance. I don't know what you do, but remember, it's Vegas. It's a little bit different. But I don't know if Roman Reigns gets an unbelievable entrance. CM Punk, like really, what would you do? Seth Rollins got an amazing entrance last year. I don't see that duplicating this year. For some reason, I mean, you know who get a pretty good entrance? Jey Uso. I think Jey Uso. Man, they really want him as the hip hop, character in the WWE. We've been talking about that for like 3 months now. I think Jey Uso will get a pretty damn good intro. So those are a few right off the bat. Cody Rhodes will get one, no question. Would you have somebody maybe come out like a little old school where Cody's like in a helicopter and it lands like a... I don't know the logistics of that building. Actually, I don't even think you can do that. Yeah, I think you got to do something with Cena. Somebody's got to... Well, you know what? I think Jacob Fatu would be pretty cool if he got something, but I don't think they're going to do anything for Jacob Fatu this year. So I know he's getting the IC title shot, but Rojo Bear, thank you very much. He sent a 5 spot over and he says, who do I think should face Randy Orton this year? The funny thing is, I thought about Andrade. I thought about Rusev. I thought about Aleister Black. And I don't like any of those choices. And I'll tell you why. In my honest opinion, Randy Orton needs to win his match. I would not be surprised if Randy Orton, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but I would not be surprised if Randy Orton has no match announced. Randy Orton comes out on night 1 and is just pissed off that he has no opponent. And or maybe you have something. I know this is going to sound ridiculous, guys. Please don't get mad at me. I'm just using an example. What if you did something like Miz TV and Miz is just being a douche and Randy Orton comes out and then just RKOs him, or you get an impromptu match or something like that. Like I could see that happening. I just don't see Randy Orton losing night 1. And remember, whatever Randy Orton does, if Randy Orton has a match, it's got to be night 1. We have to forget about Randy, because when he shows up at night 2 and possibly turns on Cody Rhodes, nobody expected Randy Orton to be there. If that's why whatever Randy does, it has to be night 1, because everybody got their Randy fix. All right, he showed up on night 1. He wrestled somebody impromptu. Maybe he wrestles Grayson Waller. You know what? Grayson Waller, Austin Theory. Maybe something like that. The Grayson Waller effect. Maybe they do a Grayson Waller effect. Randy Orton comes out, impromptu match. Randy Orton beats the shit out of Grayson Waller, beats the shit out of Austin Theory. Done. Then everybody thinks, okay, Randy, his WrestleMania moment for this year is over. And nobody expects him to show up night 2. That's kind of what I would do. I don't want to see him fight Rusev or Andrade or Aleister Black, because I don't think either of those 3 should lose to Randy Orton. Aleister Black's return should not be a loss. Rusev's return should not be a loss. By the way, thank you for that, Rojo. What did you guys think? What did you guys think of the thumbnail? Trust me, that Photoshop was very hard for me to do, because I had to create colors, shades, try to like match up things, even trying to get JD McDonough's hand on Rusev's shoulder. This is not as easy as you think it is, because I try to make my shit perfect. What do you think about Rusev being part of the Judgment Day and being Dominic's bodyguard? Being the bodyguard for the Judgment Day. I tell you, Kevin and I talked about that earlier in the week, and we got a decent amount of positive feedback, but I put it on social media, and majority of people are like, I hate that idea. It's stupid. Why would Rusev? I'm like, Rusev Day, Judgment Day. I don't know. I think I like it. I like it. I think we could see that. I don't think Finn Balor ever had a relationship with Rusev. They weren't in the League of Nations together, obviously, because League of Nations was like Sheamus and stuff like that. But I could see maybe Rusev attacking Finn Balor. And Finn Balor is thrown out of the Judgment Day, and Rusev Day becomes part of the Judgment Day, and maybe we get a Finn Balor-Rusev feud. I don't know. I'm just brainstorming. Not spitballing like Dave LaGreca. If you tune into the history shows, you know why I'm saying that. By the way, somebody mentioned this on our Patreon the other day, and I looked it up, and I found it. I got to look for the original file, but here's a flashback for anybody that remembers our shirts back in the day. Does anybody ever remember the Lex Express shirt that we put out about 15 years ago? Lex Luger hitting me with the torture rack? That is yours truly. Getting a torture rack on Lex Luger. The shirt was, those who lose faith and wish to attack all meet their end in a torture rack. We always thought back then that Lex Luger was going to give us a cease and desist. But if we're going to be honest for a minute, we still were in the hatred for Lex Luger 15 years ago. And we were like, fuck you, Lex Luger. You were a big part of Miss Elizabeth's demise. Go ahead and try to sue us. Fuck. But no, he never sued us. Never sued us. By the way, I also found the Aces in 0.8 shirt. That's the shirt that led to the feud with Bully Ray. Because back in the day, Aces and 8 sucked so bad in TNA, their ratings went down to 0.8. So we came out with an Aces and 0.8 shirt. The only problem with that shirt is people would be like, yeah, Don Tony, Kevin Castle, they are no names. People would misunderstand the meaning of the shirt. So, all right. Just a reminder, quick plug. Next Sunday, Kevin and I will be here. WrestleMania 41 preview predictions. We got some good ones. Jonathan Contrez. How long do I think WWE will keep Penta and Ray Phoenix apart until they team together? Summertime, fall. I don't think you go as far as the Royal Rumble 2026. They are doing this strategically because if they were a tag team right now, people would say, I'll put the belts on them. And they want to keep it on the Street Profits for a little while. War Raiders, this is their last shot. War Raiders are doing a decent job. I think the War Raiders job security is pretty safe right now. So I would say for now, I would say until the spring of the fall. I would say at least the fall of this year. But I wouldn't be surprised if it goes into the winter of 2025/2026. I do expect Penta and Ray Phoenix to bump into each other on a premium live event in the back. Could happen at WrestleMania. I think we absolutely could see Ray Phoenix show up and bump into Penta and they have a hug. I mean, WWE's not going, if you really pay close attention, Ray Phoenix's lettering in his WWE merchandise now is the same as Penta's. It's almost identical. So they are keeping it similar. WWE's not going to ignore the fact, of their relationship. But for now, they have to keep them apart because the tag team division in WWE is still in repair. And, I know some people will be like, no, DIY is a great team. Motor City Machine Guns are a great team. You have others that are a great team. I get it. Legato's not a bad team. Even Joaquin Wallace and Cruz del Toro is not a bad team. But what do they all have in common? WWE is not giving a shit about many of them for too long. The fans just don't care. DIY, they tried and they did a good job getting them to heel, but not to, that status where the tag team division is strong. There's a lot of individual teams, but it's the way they're treated. So just like women's tag team titles, look at the gauntlet that they're going to do to determine who Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez's opponent is. That gauntlet is shitty, but that's what they did. So now you bring the meta girls to the main roster and you establish them as a team. And, there's always rumblings that Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade might end up reforming a tag team later on in the year on the main roster. And, you slowly start repairing that division. Then you could see, it go to the next level. I think right now, Penta and Ray Phoenix, it's good that they're not together as a team. I'm actually happy because of the overall tag team scene. Yeah, even Bayley and Lyra, like, they're a tag team, and they could end up facing Liv and Raquel at WrestleMania. But it's like, no, Lyra's a champion. Lyra should be feuding with someone. Chelsea Green. Listen, Chelsea Green proposed the idea of the hair versus hair match against Nikki Bella for WrestleMania. It's not happening. Now I'm thinking, maybe they could do that for Evolution, because they are going to announce Evolution very soon. And maybe Chelsea Green takes on Nikki Bella, hair versus hair at Evolution. That would be pretty interesting. But Roderick says, do I think Bayley's position as Lyra's tag partner was originally meant for Becky Lynch, while Bayley capped a feud with Roxanne Perez at Stand and Deliver? No, I don't think so. I think Becky Lynch, when she returns, it's right back to top status. And the thing is, Tiffany Stratton is solidifying herself right now as the woman. I know people will refuse to accept this, but Charlotte Flair is a pro. Tiffany Stratton is a pro, but Tiffany Stratton is still very, very young on the main roster. And she is not going to go rogue into business for herself and start fucking with arguably the number one woman in that company for years, whether you like it or not. These are professionals. LA Knight didn't go into business for himself at the Royal Rumble to get his spots in. That is a fan at home who thinks they know it all that said that. That was untrue. What happened with him and Drew McIntyre was timing. The timing was off. Drew got eliminated, very matter of fact. It sucked. And they had every right to be upset about it. But the idea that, LA Knight had to get his spots in, that was fake. And the idea, after what happened last week, Tiffany gave a receipt to Charlotte. Charlotte just went on fucking Sherry Shepherd's show and cried about her divorce to Andrade. And I'm a fan of Charlotte's. I've always defended Charlotte. But I watched that show, and you know what that show was? It felt like the show, the demographic, is for a lot of very, very sad women out there that just want to get together and hug each other and cry and share tears together and have some hot chocolate, and then everybody gets a prize going home. That's what it felt like, because Charlotte is crying, talking about, how, her marriage failed. And she's like, I feel like I'm a failure again. Yeah, that's human emotion. Famous people get it too. That's what I've always said. But then you got Sherry Shepherd, whatever her name is. She's talking about her personal battles and how she overcame it. And she's giving all this inspiration to Charlotte. And Charlotte's there like, thank you. I really needed that. Oh, thank you, sister. And they're hugging and everybody's cheering and this and that. And I'm like, oh, God. Shit. You went on that show for what? It wasn't to promote WrestleMania, even though that's the perception of it. It's like, why was she on that show? To talk about her personal battles and the injuries and the bad marriages and this and that. And it's a platform where, you got 5,000 women giving her a hug. She's a professional. She knew that shot would have gone there. If Charlotte if she would have said to WWE and Tiffany Stratton, my divorce is off limits. Off limits. I guarantee you, no matter what happened last week, Tiffany Stratton wouldn't have just said, fuck it, and go there anyway, and then roll out of the ring and be like, I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all. This is all make it feel as real as possible. And WWE's really smart. I got an idea. We'll make it even realer when we edit it out. Because when we edit it out, everybody's like, oh, this was a shoot. They weren't expecting that. They went off the script. Shout out to JD. And of course they deleted it. You delete it, it seems like even more was real. It's WrestleMania. They're doing this to put more interest into WrestleMania. So Tiffy and Charlotte, more of that raw emotion. People think they're going to get a shoot fight like Nia Jax and Charlotte Flair from back in the day. But when Becky Lynch returns, she's got to return at a top level. And if she returns as a babyface, I think she returns at Evolution. I don't think I want Becky Lynch to return at WrestleMania. I'd rather see a return at Evolution. You know why? Because she could have a match with anybody at Evolution. You don't need a feud. You don't need anything leading into it. And you advertise the return of Becky Lynch, that's a big deal. One Fall says that Becky is pregnant. If she's pregnant again, then yeah, all bets are off. Michael says they don't need Becky Lynch. Yeah, I agree. I mean, Becky has done so much already that, really is there much else to do? She's still good at what she does. I mean, the final match that she had with Trish Stratus in that feud ended up being really, really good. Becky Lynch is not trash talent. She's definitely one of the top stars. It's just, how do you bring her back? That's the thing. Where do you slide her in? And, that's a big question. You can't, that's why, I've always said in the past, when people look at NXT stars and like, oh my God, this person's ready for the main roster. Oh, bring them to the main roster. I remember when they did that with Indy Hartwell. Give Indy a chance. That was the hashtag. Hashtag give Indy a chance. And I'm like, why? As much as I liked Indy Hartwell, you're going to bring it to the main roster. You have too many women that are above her. There's nothing about her that's going to make anybody think that she could leapfrog those big stars. And what happened? She came to the main roster, and right away, you know what people wanted to see? They wanted the way to reform. They wanted her to rekindle that relationship with Dexter Lumis. By the way, Dexter Lumis, I remember what Kevin and I said last Monday. Expect some Dexter Lumis contract news very, very soon. When you see that come out anywhere from a couple of weeks to a couple of months, remember, people are gatekeeping common sense research. So if you didn't tune into last Monday's show, you should. There's going to be it wasn't just Karrion Kross's contract that's coming up later this year. There's quite a few people, but people are gatekeeping names to wait. So it looks like, exclusive, broke. Just follow what we said on Monday and you could figure it out yourself. You could even figure out for next year too. I don't think she's really pregnant. I think people are just saying that in the chat, just to either just throw shade at Becky or to be controversial. If Becky Lynch was pregnant, it would be news all over the news wire. So no, I don't think she's pregnant. Just to be a little specific. All right. It's interesting. Has it been 90 days yet since we had the release of Alba Fire in them? I don't think so, right? It's not 90 days yet, so we really can't look at that. But I want to see what happens to some of those wrestlers when they hit 90 days. I'm looking at the releases from earlier this year. I just happen to have this thumbnail around, and of everybody on that list, actually, no, I just realized it. Yeah, because Carl Anderson, they released him, so when he's back from injury, it's right around the time that he can return to action. That's when the 90 days is up. So, all right. Yuta pins Dax Harwood. Thank you very much. See, we are perfect so far. So I said I almost said the Blackpool Combat Club. The Death Riders retain the trios titles, defeating Adam Copeland and FTR. So far we're perfect. We are absolutely perfect with our predictions. So 316 MMA. Do I think it's a slap in the face that Liv won't get a big match this year with all the work she's done? And how would I book the men's IC title match at WrestleMania? Dom wins and turn on Finn. First off, Liv Morgan is going to have a big match at WrestleMania. She will be defending the women's tag team championships against whoever the team is. Liv Morgan cannot be the semi-main event every single year. Liv Morgan will be the women's wrestler of 2024. She will win that award for the Slammy. She will get a Slammy. She will walk down the aisle with the Slammy in her hand. Maybe she gets more than one. I don't know. Not everybody can have, the high profile, match. And honestly, I am tired of seeing her wrestle Rhea Ripley. Right now, she's in a little bit of an influx because they spent so much freaking time with her and Rhea Ripley that it's like, okay, who is she going to have a really good feud with next? She's still a tag team champion. So she's got to be involved in the tag team division for a little while. So no, I don't see any issue with Liv's match. And the other question, I've said this a few times already. Braun Breaker will defend the Intercontinental Championship against Penta, Dominic Mysterio, and Finn Balor. And I think what's going to happen is Dom's going to go for a pin, and Finn Balor's going to break it up. And they're going to look at each other confused. And then Dom's going to go for a pin. Finn Balor's going to go for a pin, and Dom's going to break it up. And they're going to look at each other and be confused. They're going to work hand in hand, beating down Penta. They're going to work together to beat down Braun Breaker. And then at one point, one of the guys is going to turn on the other. And it's probably going to be Finn Balor, not turning heel. But Finn will be the first to go after Dom because for Finn, the championship is more important than his friendship with Dom. And that will be the beginning of the complete elimination of Finn Balor in the Judgment Day. Braun Breaker will retain. Dominic Mysterio is not winning the IC titles at WrestleMania. And then after the match is over, I don't necessarily even think that there should be a turn at WrestleMania. I think you wait till the Raw after WrestleMania, where the Judgment Day come out there and, they Liv and Raquel are celebrating and Dom and Finn are licking their wounds. And then all of a sudden, plus JD McDonough needs to be back. If they're going to turn on Finn and they're going to beat the shit out of Finn, JD McDonough needs to be back first. So I think that's how it goes down. I would not have, Braun Breaker's got to retain. Penta does not need the Intercontinental Championship right now. Braun Breaker is going to leave WrestleMania as IC champion. It's just, you don't fuck with that momentum right now. Remember the last time Braun lost the championship? Anybody remember that? I take credit for it. Remember all the websites? He must have failed the steroids test. He must be taking time off. There must be a suspension. It must be something. Why did they take the belt off? Remember, people were actually pushing that as a strong rumor. My sources tell me that something's going. Kevin like, oh, just shut the fuck up. Let's just wait. Just wait a week and see what happens. And sure enough, no, they just stirred it up a little bit. Braun Breaker is not going to lose the title again right now. But that'll be for next week's predictions. We do have another question that somewhat has to do with predictions. Jimmy Fingers, thank you, Jimmy. The only outcome of this forced triple threat is to have an outcome where Paulie turns on Punk and Roman. He goes with Liberace Rollins. Roman is back on vacation after WrestleMania. Goes back to vacation. I don't want to see Paul Heyman be the wise man for Seth Rollins. It's not necessary. Paul Heyman went into the Hall of Fame last year, is very instrumental in a lot of Roman Reigns' business, on camera and off camera. There's a lot of speaking engagements that they do together. And I don't see WWE messing with that. I think what's going to happen is that right now, as I said on yesterday's news update, I don't know if you heard it, but right now this is all psychological. There's no playbook that Paul Heyman could give CM Punk to defeat Roman Reigns. CM Punk's favor, which some that Kevin and I predicted this like a month ago, and a lot of you did as well. Let's be honest. A lot of us did. It's to rattle Roman Reigns' brain going into WrestleMania that he doesn't have the wise man with him. Let's remember, though, when Roman Reigns originally came back, the wise man really, originally for a short moment was not a factor. Because remember, Paul Heyman called Roman Reigns. Oh, wait, yeah, it was Roman Reigns calling the wise. No, wait, why am I drawing a blank? Whose phone number was disconnected? It was Roman Reigns calling Paul Heyman? Why does that sound wrong? Paul Heyman it's Paul Heyman. Call Roman Reigns, right? Wasn't it Paul Heyman who called Roman Reigns? The number you have reached has been disconnected. Oh, Roman tried to call Paul. Okay. Yeah, Roman. Oh, that's right. Delete for survivors. Call wise man. The number you have reached has been disconnected. So Roman did just fine without the wise man. Wow, I just had a brain fart, man. I literally just envisioned like the TV. And I remember when Roman Reigns just looked at the phone and the crowd erupted. And then I just envisioned in my brain Paul Heyman looking at the phone and called Roman Reigns. And the number you reached has been disconnected. It would be funny if CM Punk called the wise man the day of WrestleMania. The number you've reached has been disconnected. No, don't revisit that. Listen, I don't think CM Punk wants Paul Heyman to physically get involved. I'm not saying this to be a dick, but Paul Heyman is physically incapable of doing anything like that. I mean, what's going to happen? Like CM Punk is going to hold Roman Reigns and tell Paul to hit him? That seems cheesy. I don't know. I just think, you know what it feels like? Remember when Miss Elizabeth was unsure, like Hulk and Macho Man? And like Miss Elizabeth, she's like torn between both. That's what this feels like. It feels like Paul Heyman is a very chunky, balding Miss Elizabeth, and Roman Reigns and CM Punk are Macho Man and Hulk Hogan. But really, I mean, where does I see this going? Funny thing is, who wins that match? I'm not giving my prediction right now, but it's not as easy as to predict. Even though most people are saying, oh, Roman Reigns will win. He's the cover of the video game, blah, 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 blah. Any match updates from Dynasty? Any match updates with Dynasty? FTR turned on Copeland? Yeah, we even said that yesterday. Like, actually, that was the reason why we chose the Death Riders to win that match. Like, nah, FTR and Cope, they got to turn shit up. All right, who's up now? Is this Tony Storm and Megan Bayne that are going at it? All right, see, that match is hard. That match is very, very hard. The only way I see Megan Bayne winning this right now is if Tony Storm is going to move on to Mercedes Moné in the near future. What I hope does not happen tonight is I hope to God we don't get a moment where Penelope Ford tries to get involved and fucks up and inadvertently does something to Megan Bain, and Tony Storm sneaks out a win. I hope they don't do that. I just hope they don't do that. Yeah, believe it or not, Roman Reigns losing this match at WrestleMania is definitely a possibility. It's definitely a possibility. So, all right. Let's see. What other questions do we get into? I think we've got that all up to date. Roderick says Heyman turning on Roman would be an intriguing character. Losing his wise man means he truly lost his tribe, as Cody predicted last year. But Cody's a babyface, and Roman Reigns is a babyface now. We're not supposed to remember Cody saying that. That's why, good segue, Kevin Owens. That fucking sucks, man. Kevin Owens needing neck surgery, going to be out up to a year, may not be back until WrestleMania 42, and that's providing that the surgery goes well, they don't find further damage, and he heals well. That spot, and again, to clear this up, it ends up we were right. When Kevin Owens did that interview with Barstool Sports, it said that it happened in January. I brought this up in a news report yesterday. Kevin Owens only had 2 matches in January, one against Rey Mysterio and one against Jey Uso. And the jarring of his neck happened in the Cody Rhodes match. That was February 1st. And the reason why Kevin Owens said January is because almost every one of us who grew up for, watching wrestling for many years, you always think of the Royal Rumble happening in January. This year, the Royal Rumble happened on February 1st. So that's why Kevin Owens said January. It was the match against Cody and that spot with the ladder that definitely did him in. And he needs to be out. And this is what really sucks even more. This is what sucks even more. Kevin Owens returns next year. He may not be able to finish this feud with Randy Orton because, if what happens, what we've been saying, Kevin and I, for a month now, more than that, happens, and Randy Orton turns on Cody, helps Cena win the belt, aligns with Rock, Cena, Orton, the 3 biggest names in the last 20 years in WWE television. That allows Randy Orton to feud with Cody Rhodes into SummerSlam with no titles on the line. So now that opens up the opportunity of Randy Orton getting a win here and there. And then if Randy Orton remains a heel throughout 2025, if he goes into 2026 as a heel still, Kevin Owens returns. Randy Orton has a receipt waiting for Kevin Owens, but you need Randy Orton to be a babyface and Kevin Owens to be a heel for that receipt to really be done the right way. And at that time, Randy Orton may be a full-blown heel still. So when Kevin Owens returns, they may not even be able to have that feud finish, which is really is screwed up, And then you obviously could easily fix that, by having them on separate brands. I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but that's an easy way to get around that. But Kevin Owens injured. That really sucks, man. Sorry for yawning. I've been up since 6:30 this morning. So, yeah, I think Orton and Cody at SummerSlam is a lock. Who Cena faces yet, I'm not sure. I got to think about that. Remember, Cena is going to be SmackDown. Cena's SmackDown. And, he's going to have to fight somebody on SmackDown. Now, I don't think we're going to get a draft this year. I don't think we're going to get a draft this year. What was the purpose of doing a transfer window only a couple of months before? If they didn't do the transfer window, then I would say, yeah, they're doing a draft this year. They could always, in storyline, do a trade whenever they want. But John Cena's going to have to fight somebody on SmackDown. So we will see. CM Punk's a Raw wrestler. I don't, as much as I wouldn't mind seeing CM Punk and Cena at SummerSlam, I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if that happens. So, do I think Randy Orton gets added to a match at Mania? Vance is asking. I thought about that. I thought about, wouldn't that be something if they added him to Cena and Cody, which listen, as cool as that may sound, because it's surprising and unexpected, Randy Orton did not win any matches to warrant himself. I mean, it's bad enough that Rhea Ripley's going to get a title shot, simply because of, the storyline the last couple of weeks. You can't do that with Randy. I think Randy Orton, you simply just have an impromptu match. They can always announce an alternate match next Friday on SmackDown. I just personally think fans would be happy if he fucking RKO'd Grayson Waller, Austin Theory. The problem with that, I just thought about it, is Austin Theory and Grayson Waller are Raw now. So they would not be able to have a match with Orton. So maybe you do a Grayson Waller effect. Their guest is Randy Orton. Maybe they do that. Because they could have anybody as a guest. WrestleMania, they can have a Raw or a SmackDown guy as a guest. I don't think anybody wants to see Randy Orton and Nick Aldis. The 1/3 of 1% of the wrestling world. Nick Aldis was tremendous. Represented the NWA with class. Always gave me Nick Bockwinkel vibes. Nick Aldis is great. But I don't think anybody really wants to see that. I really don't want to see that. All right. Who hasn't asked the question yet? Because we're going to start wrapping this up very, very soon. Definitely want to see the outcome of the Tony Storm Megan Bay match, though. I want to see if Penelope Ford screws it up. I don't want to see Braun Strowman versus Randy Orton. That's just too random, in my honest opinion. He could beat up a Tama Tonga. Don't want to see that. Maybe Randy Orton and Solo Sikoa? I don't want to see that either. Just have Randy Orton fucking RKO Grayson Waller and Austin Theory on night one. Listen, if Randy Orton gets involved in the Cena Cody match, it's not going to matter what he does on night one. People will just remember that moment of Rock, Cena, and Orton standing in the ring. And man, please, if there's a God, if Travis Scott gets involved, let Travis Scott stand alongside all three of them, and then fucking let Rock go like this to Randy Orton. Let Randy Orton RKO Travis Scott. Seriously, just get him out of the fucking ring. It's nothing against him. It's just, I just want to see, if you're going to have the three biggest names in the last 20 years, three of the biggest names, just let it be wrestlers. Just let it be wrestlers. I don't care who else it is. Just let it be wrestlers. Jacob Fatu is fighting LA Knight at WrestleMania. He's not going to be fighting Solo Sikoa. And I haven't really thought about it much yet, but it'd be pretty damn cool to see Jacob Fatu win the belt at WrestleMania. Be pretty cool. As far as Bianca Belair goes, there's been calls for her to turn heel. There's been calls for Rhea Ripley to turn heel. You got to look at the overall roster on Raw, and you see that there is a huge imbalance between baby faces and heels. Somebody else needs to step up as a heel. And the thing is, I just don't see Bianca Belair, who is one of the biggest ambassadors for that company, being a heel right now. Rhea Ripley, it would be 10 times easier, but for some, like Kevin said on Monday, just turn Rhea Ripley heel already. There's a big problem with that. You know what the big problem is? Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. You cannot have Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez be two monster heels and have Rhea Ripley a heel also, because sure, they could still dislike each other, But I don't want it where Liv Morgan is like, Rhea came to her senses, and I don't want to see both of them heel at the same time. If they were on separate rosters, then I'd be fine with it. But Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez are Raw wrestlers, even though they're a champion for both brands right now. Sami Zayn, I think, is going to face Jey Uso at SummerSlam for the World Heavyweight Championship. The interesting thing you got to think about is what happens to Gunther after he loses his championship. What happens with Gunther? Now, a rematch would obviously be in order with Jey Uso, but who feuds with Gunther next? Could it be CM Punk and Gunther? I mean, they've been doing that on house shows like crazy. But, with no title on the line, it gives much more flexibility on WWE's part to have it be booked a different way. So maybe they will revisit CM Punk and Gunther. I wouldn't mind it. They've been tearing it up on the house shows. That's why it's cool to see those fan footage of those matches, man. Do not want to see Aleister Black fight Randy Orton. You cannot have Randy Orton lose and then come back night 2 and help turn on Cody and help Cena win. I think you got to give the fans a reminder that Randy Orton, full-fledged babyface, especially that he cannot fight Kevin Owens. Even more of a reason he has to be victorious or come out of night 1 on top. You cannot have Randy Orton lose night 1. You have to have everybody cheering for him. It's got to be clear, concise, beating up a heel. Have everybody cheering him. That's why when he comes out night 2, thinking about what he did night 1, like I said, for example, he beats the shit out of Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, beats the shit out of Solo Sikoa, whoever you want to choose, helps LA Knight retain over Jacob Fatu, whatever you want to do with Randy Orton. You have to have him leave night 1 as big baby face. So when he comes out night 2, everybody and their mother believes that Randy Orton is coming out there to neutralize the new bloodline or whoever else is out there, and instead turns on Cody Rhodes. And you have the announcers, just in shock, and Cena wins the belt. That's how you got to do it. AJ Styles got to keep as a face right now. Got to keep him as a face right now. Fans want to cheer him. The heel turn was okay, but the problem is, look, I'd even be fine with a feud with AJ Styles and Gunther after this. All right, do we have an update on Megan Bayne and Toni Storm? They couldn't have had a 20-minute match. We have an outcome? Eric says that Penelope Ford is being carried to the back. What did Penelope Ford do? What did she do? What did you do, Miss Ford? The woman who stuck the lollipop up Joey Ryan's ass in a match? The match is still going. She was interfering the whole match. Okay. I hope they do not have Camille return and get involved in this match. Camille, if she returns, she's got to get involved with Mercedes Moné. You cannot just have people act like, it didn't happen. Man, match is still going. All right. We got a powerbomb by Megan Bayne. What do you all think of Megan Bayne? Just a quick survey from everybody who's in the chat. You like her? Thumbs up? Overhyped? Just right? I mean, what do you all think of Megan Bayne? I think she has a great future. I think the problem is in AEW, you don't have AEW Dark. You don't have AEW Elevation. You don't have the loads of enhancement talent to pad her numbers like they did with Jade Cargill. And I think the problem is Megan Bayne does not have that plethora of people that she could dominate in the midst of all of this. Eric said that Tony won on a roll-up. Blocking the F5. Good. Good. Very good. Very good. She does she give Charlotte vibes? I think because of the presence and, her dress and how she makes herself, like, just the presentation of her. I could see why people say that. She's definitely good. Definitely good. Interesting that WWE did not have her on the radar, because trust me, I don't recall anybody saying that WWE's interested in signing Megan Bayne. She really was never on that radar. But then again, WWE right now, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Look at NXT. Look at how many freaking women that 2 years from now are going to be on the main roster. Like, even Jordynne Grace, like, people are convinced she's going to the main roster. I don't think Jordynne Grace goes to Raw or SmackDown for at least the next 9 months, 6 to 9 months. I don't think you need Jordynne Grace on Raw or SmackDown right now. You look at that NXT roster, they have so many women that are in development. It's going to be really interesting. And let's also remember this too, that nobody's talking about. In about a month, we should see a few more releases in WWE. I don't want to see it happen, but I would say in about a month, maybe 6 weeks, a little bit later this year because WrestleMania is later this year, but in about 4 to 6 weeks, you will see a few names released. And that's going to make room for some names to be called up. I hope they don't let go Kiana James. I keep hearing that she's nearing a return, and then you hear that there's a setback. Kiana James is someone, when she was in NXT, we were like, all right, I could see her on the main roster. And then she got called up, and they were doing that thing in the back where she was like, office. And it's like, I just didn't like the way they used Kiana James at all. What did John say? How many times has Megan been married and divorced? I'm sure Charlotte has a beat there. Isn't Charlotte only married twice? Or was it 3 times now? She got Andrade. She had that other jerk off. How many times has Charlotte been married? Oh, wait, it is 3 times. It is 3 times, yeah. She's turning into Ric Flair. Woo! I tell you, this is very risky for me to say. But I'm going to say it because everybody knows where my heart is. There's no hate here. There's no racism here. There's no biased misogynist here. We just call it like we see it. Anybody else, when you heard that Andrade and Charlotte started dating, like, I always thought there was the language barrier there. Like, I knew Andrade spoke some English, but I didn't know how fluent it was. And when I saw them dating as a couple, I'm like, something just seems off. I was like, this kind of reminds me of Scarface. Who is the blonde in Scarface? I can't remember her name right now. But I got the vibes, like, there's just something about Andrade and Charlotte that gave me, like, Tony Montana. Who's the chick from Scarface? Can't remember her name right now. The actress's name, not the character's name. Michelle Pfeiffer, yeah. Man, Michelle Pfeiffer was so beautiful back in the day. It's kind of reminded me of, like, Michelle Pfeiffer and Tony Montana. Like, I just didn't see them click. Then I see them work out together. I'm like, oh, okay. It's kind of like Ludwig Kaiser and Tiffany Stratton, like, they're big health nuts, and they somehow they clicked. And then they got married. And then it just seemed like something just seems off. Any of you out there ever felt like Andrade and Charlotte Flair were going to make babies and stay married for 20 years? It just seemed like a really strange relationship. I don't know why. By the way, I want to thank everybody for shouting out my dog Bruno. This past April Fool's, Bruno turned 1 year old. That is Bruno. coolest fucking dog around. I mean, Bella's still my number one. That's Bella. She and I are inseparable. In fact, the funny thing is once I finish my show, I open the door and they start running like they haven't seen me in about 2 weeks. So Bruno turned 1 on April 1st. And I posted a video on Twitter. I gave him roast beef. So I actually had a little piece of like yellow cake in the morning with coffee, and I went to give it to him. He sniffed it and he walked away. Took out a piece of roast beef. That dog devoured it, man. So good, cute dogs. So, all right, we're in an hour and 45 minutes. We'll wrap this up at the 2-hour mark. So I hope you could join us tomorrow for the DTKC show. Kevin and I will be live 15 minutes after Raw goes off the air. This week, we should get The Rock's return. I mean, The Rock is going to return. And between me and you, something I've been saying for a month, and I think we really need to think about it now. The Rock needs to return, and there needs to be a special stipulation to Cody Rhodes versus John Cena. Bloodline rules. No DQ. I don't give a shit what you want. You want to call it Los Angeles fucking street fight? Whatever you want to call it, there's got to be no disqualification. You cannot have the Bloodline hit the ring, Undertaker hit the ring, Steve Austin hit the ring, Randy Orton hit the ring, Roman Reigns hit the ring, all these people hit the ring, and the referee is, knocked out? I don't want to see a ref bump and they're unconscious. Because when there's a ref bump, I expect to see Charles Robinson running like we run after the ice cream truck. How Charles Robinson runs to the ring. They got to do something with Bloodline rules. There's got to be some stipulation. Rock has the power. Rock needs to come back, add a stipulation to this match. We cannot have Cody Rhodes versus John Cena go into WrestleMania as a straight-up wrestling match. There's got to be a stipulation added to it. It's got to be a stipulation added to it. Bobby Means. Thank you, Bobby. He is a member of our family here, a channel member for 19 months. Shout out to all of our great channel members. Really helps Kevin and I pay the bills, and it's helping us grow as well. Our Patreon family, everyone who downloads the shows, spreads the word, everything helps because we're really working hard to, listen, it's a marathon, not a sprint. To quote Triple H. And last week was the anniversary of that quote, by the way. It's on the History Show. But it's a marathon, not a sprint. And we have to reclaim our audience. We were number one for a very, very long time. And, when we broke up, a lot of people lost faith. And, it's been a long road coming back. But we're having the time of our life right now. And especially Kev going through the serious health issues that he's going through. Like, the show is like one of his biggest escapes right now. And we're just, very, very appreciative of everybody's support because trust me, right now there's a show almost every day, but we do want to grow this channel here. We do want to add more content, but we can't overload it either. Even Kev, when he does his solo YouTube shows, not YouTube, Patreon shows every other Thursday, they're 4 or 5 hours long. And I can't tell him what to do, but I'm like, Kev, ease up, man. Ease up. You got to take it. No, I'm having fun. So who am I to stop him? But all right. What match is going on right now? Let's see. Which match are they up to right now? Is everybody fine with anybody in favor of Moxley retaining? Dynasty would be an interesting pay-per-view to have Moxley lose the belt. But I don't know. Fletcher is up right now. I think Fletcher is going to win. As much as I like Mark Briscoe, I think people want to see Fletcher advance. I wonder if we'll run the table tonight. with predictions. I don't want to see Moxley hold it to July. We're only in April, man. We're only in April. That's painful. But that could very well happen. You know what the interesting thing is? When Cody finally beat Roman after a year of what happened in 39, it was a huge moment. I don't know if it's going to be that huge historic moment if they make Moxley hold it to All In, even if it's Ospreay who takes the title from him. I think people would be like, thank fucking God. Well, we will see. I just hope they don't split up Nana and Swerve. So, did I piss off anybody earlier with my comments about Swerve, Booker T, and DJ Vlad? I find something interesting with Swerve. I didn't say this earlier, and I intentionally said to myself earlier, don't say it, but I'm going to say it here now. Does anybody out there get the vibe that Swerve knows or is very strategic on going on these very ethnic podcasts? Is that the right way to put it? Because I find it interesting, his choice of where he appears. And if you look closely, you'll see what I'm talking about. You know, like I see a little pattern that this is not like Swerve just doing a podcast and someone decides they want to just stir the shit up and he just kind of like falls victim to it or falls into it. I'm starting to feel like Swerve strategically is choosing a style of podcast to appear on. I don't know if anybody else notices that, but I sure get that feeling. So I'm sure I'll piss off a few people by saying that. Mike asked me earlier, did Chase and Rance block me on Twitter? Chase and Rance has me blocked for 20 years. That guy can't stand me. Ever since, God rest his soul, when Daphne was living in his house, that guy has hated my guts. I could care less. You know, I said some things yesterday night that, you know, as much as I don't like the guy, you got to be honest about it. And, you know, I explained why it looks like those charges may have been dropped, which is just really weird to have it happen so freaking fast. But, you know, the thing is, the biggest problem with Chase and Rance, anybody that's interested in that story, here's his biggest problem. Ever since he got in trouble sleeping with that underage girl, and for the record, the girl was between the ages of 12 and 15. Even when I had fake ID in the 80s, I don't know anyone who was between 12 and 15 who went to a club and passed for 18 or 21. You know, like 16, 17, trying to come off at 21, that's different. But, you know, when you're that young, like 12, 13 years old, it's really, really hard to pass off as 18. But even if, and I'm being fair here, even if the girl did tell him she was 18 and he truly in his heart believed it, and then found out later on that was not the case. He, in agreement to what happened, agreed to register as a sex offender. And by doing so, you give up a ton, if not all of your privacy. And lawyers explained this to him, explained it to him. He knew by registering that was going to be the case. Years later, there are a lot of people who are on his side. There are a lot of people who are convinced that he was lied to. And if, let's pretend that's true. If he goes through the last 10 plus years saying to himself, I did not know she was on, I did not know. And he, in his mind, believes that he's innocent. You can't act like you're innocent. When he went on social media and said, oh, I got to dot the I's and cross the T's. Every person who is registered, the government, the police, I should say, law enforcement handles you the same way. You sell your car, You have to tell them. You get a new car, you have to tell them. You change your license plate number, you have to tell them. You change your phone number, you have to tell them. You change your address, you have to tell them. You get a different job, you have to tell them. Why? Because they have to tell the community. Beware of this license plate. This person, this sex offender now has a new license plate number. So if somebody sees a creepy car with a license plate number and they look it up and it's not linking to any sex offenders, they think nothing of it. That's what happens when you register. I'm not trust me, I have not ever done anything wrong, but I've done a lot of research. I discussed this case as it was happening. And when you read and do research, you learn things. And his mindset is, oh, I got a little lackadaisical. I set up a social media account and I forgot to tell this, but you can't be lackadaisical even if you believe you're innocent, because law enforcement doesn't look at you as innocent. They look at you as a convicted sex offender. There aren't, he was lied to, so that's his problem. That's his number one problem, because he is convinced that he didn't do anything wrong, that he doesn't take it as serious, and law enforcement will eat his ass up every time. All right. Why does Nick Wayne have about the best entrance team in all of wrestling? Yeah, Nick Wayne's song is good, but I'd rather see a great wrestler with shitty music than a shitty wrestler with great music. I'm not saying that Nick Wayne is a shitty wrestler, but all right. We're going to wrap this up in about 3 minutes. I want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. Did Kyle Fletcher beat Mark Briscoe? Please don't tell me this match is still going on. He had to have won by now. And as long as this match is going to go 15 minutes, so it's still going on. AEW, sometimes a match can end in 2 or 3 minutes. It's okay. If a wrestler gets upset in AEW that their match is only 3 or 4 minutes, oh, fucking well. Match is still going on. That's one of the things I don't like about AEW. Just like sometimes a match does need to end in very short order, especially, when you look at, and it can't always be like Megan Bain versus squash talent. Sometimes, wrestlers do have to lose in short order. It can't be, tons of 2 counts every single match. It just gets old. I don't have any problem with some matches going 20 minutes, but I don't like how almost every match has got to go over 10. If you have 6 matches on the card, fine. But when you have 13, no. Yeah, the excessive kicking out. I mean, people say to me, how come, I don't watch AEW as much as I used to? I swear to you, it's not because Tony Khan is a petulant baby and the foundation behind the scenes is built on silly putty, and the climate and the culture and, even, how people treat you when you show some support. That's a very small part of it. It's just, to me, it's a lot of crash TV, a lot of trash TV, sometimes forcing, being a little bit profane and, grabbing, like they show, like grabbing tits and stuff. Like, it doesn't turn me off. I mean, it doesn't make me change the channel, but it's like, you could feel when stuff is forced to try to be a little edgy, and it comes off nerdy more than anything else. Plus, when you keep rewarding people who work behind the scenes, I don't want to throw any names out there, but there was somebody that worked the pre-show tonight who I'll give it away if I say this. Let's just say he got very emotional going to Philly tonight for this event. And I'm like, motherfucker, you shouldn't even be on this show. Like, why? Like, why is this person constantly on these shows? Like, he's being rewarded because of all the work he does behind the scenes. And that's fine. And then, yeah, it's a pre-show and everything, but, they have too many people featured in prominent positions that most fans don't give a shit about. I think the Mets and the Yankees will be playoff bound this year. I am a little concerned about Mets pitching. Their relief pitching is tremendous so far, but I feel they're 1 or 2 big pitchers short. so far. But right now they're doing well. Right now they're only like a game out of first. Yankees are doing great. The fucking torpedo bats, I love it. I love it because people are trying to turn it into controversy, and most of them aren't even baseball fans. So they don't even understand why, the bats are legal. And if you notice, they're not hitting as many home runs as before. People don't blame it on Milwaukee pitching. No torpedo bats. Well, how's about the pitching sucks? Or it's the first week of the season and people are still maybe not 100%. They're still in spring training mode. I remember a Mets game in 1985 where they lost, I think, 26-7. I remember watching that game, and they had pitchers on there like Calvin Schiraldi and Joe Sambito, who ended up getting traded to the Red Sox later on, and they would be in the World Series, I think. I don't know if Sambito was in 86. I think he was. But they had pitchers out there, the Mets, that were not ready for Major League yet at that time. Now, did it happen the first week in April? No. But the thing is that sometimes, you just get hammered. We've seen games that team scores 30 runs. Just the Yankees were on fire. Kyle Fletcher won. Thank you. So we could go off the air saying Kyle Fletcher won. So far, we are running the table. Benjamin, I'll answer this in closing. Was CM Punk's favor one of the most disappointing wrestling reveals of all time? No. It was one of the most predictable ones. It was one that Kevin I said earlier this month. A lot of you said it as well. That the favor is Paul Heyman. Remember when we said it? Wiseman, you're going to give me all the secrets, all the insight on how to beat Roman Reigns. Now, I'll say this in closing. Same thing I said a month ago. I don't like it. You know why? Because why does CM Punk need inner secrets from Paul Heyman to beat Roman Reigns? He could beat Roman Reigns because he's the best in the world. You know what I mean? Like a chicken shit heel would do that. CM Punk don't need Paul Heyman. The favor should have been bigger. Make no mistake about it. But like I said, this favor is more psychological to hurt Roman Reigns than anything else. And I truthfully, listen, CM Punk's going to be on Raw Monday. He's going to be on Raw tomorrow night. I will not be surprised if maybe CM Punk doesn't necessarily say this, but he'll lead it that way. And I think the commentators will lead it as well, that this is more of a psychological blow to Roman Reigns than Paul Heyman doing anything else. I have no issue with it. Plus, remember what we said a month ago. And think about this. What else could the favor have been? Paul, get me a title match? What am I, Nick Aldis? What am I, blowing Nick Aldis? That's the favor that you owe me. So you have a favor that Nick Aldis owes you, right? And then maybe Nick Aldis is a favor owed from Triple H, and a favor. Like, what else could Paul Heyman have asked, CM Punk could have asked Paul Heyman for? What's the favor? The only other favor would have been Roman Reigns was fighting for a championship. He tells Paul Heyman, Roman could not have that match. I get it instead. And that would have been kind of stupid because Nick Aldis would have said, I'm the authority here. No. So this favor kind of has to be what it is. So, all right, everybody, I am out of here. So enjoy the rest of this Dynasty pay-per-view. I think we have 2 matches left. No, 3. Hangman Page has not had his match yet. Jericho hasn't had his match. And Moxley and Swerve haven't had their match. So we'll see what those outcomes are. The one that I really want to see win more than anybody's Bandito. I would like to see Bandito as the ROH champion. So, but once again, final reminder, next Sunday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, Kevin and I will be live right here on YouTube. We're going to do preview and predictions for WrestleMania 41. We're also going to get into all your questions. Does not have to be just WrestleMania 41, but we will definitely open up the show. We will probably do predictions for Stand and Deliver as well. Maybe. We might hold that off until Monday's DTKC show that follows. Because next week is still a week away from WrestleMania 41. But by this coming Friday, the card will be set. There's only 4 matches left that need to be added, and we pretty much already know what those 4 matches are. So, the only big question is what happens with Randy Orton. So, guys, I'm out of here. Much love. And once again, thank you as always for your support for what we do. Definitely not taken for granted, and just keep supporting what we do. We'll keep banging out the shows. So Monday night after Raw, Kevin and I will be live in our Discord channel, dtkcdiscord.com. It is free. You can join us live tomorrow, and we will definitely have a fun show. So you all be well. Have a good one.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.